Yeah,
Oh my goodness, there you are. I think this is the first time I've actually seen you.
likewise.
That's one. How are you today? So I I'm just going over your website a little bit because I know it's SNR Bliss, and I'm just reading up on the two fascinating topics. What a service you offer people. This is so important. You know, the
People
family
are,
consternation, and so you're basically okay. Some families excluded or not even given equal rights. Okay, so it's I guess it's about identity that you identify with some members of the family that may have experienced some injustices. Would you say that's what it is?
it's not that I identify, um, the, it's that a person has some issue in their life that isn't working for them,
Okay,
or relationship or health or whatever. And it turns out that quite often someone in an earlier generation had some trauma or injustice.
okay. So I'm going to
And
ask you to repeat all that. So okay, we are going to start podcasting
oh,
in four, three. Hey everybody, this is Jim Haig and another great episode of Truth Seeking Souls, where any answer is possible from any kind of sources. And I am so excited to have here Hargo Pal, I guess. And you are going to basically enlighten us with your teachings. You are a healer. Am I correct? You can correct me.
well, I consider God the healer, but I sit there while things happen and allow it. So, yes, I'm a practitioner of healing approaches.
Are you a medium in any way?
Um, no, I have a lot of intuition.
Oh, beautiful. And you know, something is something I've always wanted to develop myself is how I can develop my intuition because I really believe that we have all the answers and we just have to find a way to tap into that.
Yeah, yeah. Meditation, yoga, for martial arts. There are many different ways that you can develop your awareness to that way.
That is amazing. So one of the things that I'm looking at your website right now, it's by the way, her website is snrbliss.com. SNR Bliss, and you can read about her services and what she specializes in. And so one of them is called Family Constellations. And I don't want to do all the talking, so because you're the expert in this, so why don't you tell us what that is?
Um, so people take on things from earlier generations, not at a conscious level, but there was some trauma or injustice that happened in earlier generations, and the person that it happened to or the people that it happened to may not have been able to fully process it, and then they've found that it gets passed on generation after generation. Sometimes it skips a generation, but still, it may be that some trauma from an earlier generation, that a person may find out that they have a trauma response without having actually been through the traumatic event. And so this brilliant German psychoanalyst, Bert Hellinger, developed a way of working with that. He would have people represent grandma and grandpa, and he noticed that they started to actually act like them. It's like they tap into something, and by shifting the position which they hold, it was possible to resolve a lot of these issues.
So let's can you, maybe you can tell us a story about a couple of stories here, but I would imagine, okay, say for instance, I have an uncle who fought in World War II, okay, and he was right there in the middle of Pearl Harbor. Place gets blown up, and he obviously we will never ever know the trauma that those soldiers and the people of Hawaii, what they've experienced and what they saw and what they had to go through. So what you're saying, several generations now, me, If that relative did not come to fruition or peace with that event or come to terms with that event, you're saying that that energy comes to me. It could come to me, and I would have to deal with it for that relative. Is am I close to being correct?
Yeah. So maybe whenever you hear a very loud sound, you might duck. And even though you weren't in the war,
Hmm.
because that happened to your ancestors, that get got passed on. And so it isn't in the genes. The thinking is that it's epigenetic,
Hmm.
that its circumstances decide whether a gene expresses. And so that can make a big difference. So I was working with a woman who had a lot of digestion problems, issues around food. It turned out that her ancestors were Irish in the potato famine.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
That's remarkable.
yeah,
That's absolutely fascinating. That is really interesting because I never so this makes more sense to me than past life regressions, that this makes way more sense to me because, it's like in past lives we are that person in the past. But what you're saying is that this energy, I guess in a way, it could actually be passed at the cellular level, not the genetic level, but the cellular level, and that energy is carried and passed on from progeny to progeny. That makes more sense to me.
yeah, yeah. And of course, we don't know if we were our own ancestors, you
Yeah, well, we
know.
don't know. We don't know.
So, but
But we're open to that thought, right?
yeah, but how you position things has an effect. And just even, how you face someone, if you're at an angle,
Hmm.
that changes the dynamic, and it works in the dynamic at a much vaster level. And
Hmm.
so family constellations can be done individually or with a group. It can be done over Zoom or in person. And so where people stand says a lot.
Hmm.
You can do family constellations with businesses. And so there was this CEO who had a new project, and we set up all the executives, and some of them were off looking over there, and some were focused. So you could tell this one isn't engaged, this one is on board, this one sees it but disagrees, and just by their stance,
Hmm.
you know how body language tells so much.
Oh yeah.
And just by shifting the positions, some of that was able to resolve.
Really? That's simple. So so give me a scenario. Can you give me a scenario? One of your You don't have to name names. I don't expect you to. But can you
Yeah.
give me a scenario where, or maybe in a roundabout way, like you had to deal with, or that you a client may have to deal with, and what did you do to help them heal?
Um, so there's a businessman who, whenever there was stress, he would get all frantic. And otherwise, stable, honest, good man. And it seemed out of character for him to get frantic. So we did a constellation, and it turned out that his ancestors, I forget which country in Europe, but Jewish ancestry. And at one point, um, the grandmother or great grandmother was trying to get on a boat, trying to find a boat to leave Europe as the Nazis were coming into the country. And she had little children with her. And so we represented this, let's say the grandmother had a representative for her and had someone represent him. And you could see how he had this bond with her. And just by acknowledging her, acknowledging what she went through, it helped reduce his tendency to become frantic when he was under stress. So some of it is the positioning, some of it is even acknowledging. A lot of times, people weren't acknowledged for what they went through.
Hmm.
And just by acknowledging that, they can process it. And it's like, oh, okay, I've been seen, I've been heard. People so need to be acknowledged.
But that's not really trauma, is it now, to be acknowledged? I mean, I would imagine if I'm not being acknowledged, I'm like, okay, well,
Uh,
that's,
I didn't mean to say that the acknowledgement is trauma.
mhm.
It's that they've gone through something, and by acknowledging them, it provides a validation.
Oh, okay. So it was an unfinished task, basically, so they want to feel validated for their efforts. And it
Yeah,
carries on to the generation to generation to generation. I could see that happening, I mean, there are athletes and there are artists and there are people who create some of the greatest music in the world, and they never got acknowledged for that. Either somebody stole their work or
yeah,
somebody, took it and ran with it, and or it never came to fruition. So I would imagine that that's very painful though.
yeah, yeah. And acknowledging and honoring people
Mhm.
for what they've been through, then it's almost like they can be themselves more than they could before.
I think that is absolutely a beautiful form of therapy. That is really, really important.
I should say I'm not a therapist.
Okay.
I do it at an energetic level. There are people who are therapists who do it.
Oh, really? Okay. But I'm just saying that that is a really profound form of therapy for the person to go through
Yes.
to kind of come to terms. Okay, this is what happened, and I'm okay with it. Let's clear it up, That's what but I would imagine that there are some degrees of I guess stories that are more traumatic than others. I mean, some people may have seen their family getting killed in front of them. How does that happen?
Well, I don't know if comparing and grading trauma, gone through something that's traumatic, um, just acknowledging that and getting to a place where you can face things
Hmm.
and acknowledge. I mean, look at all the people who were in situations like you're saying, who would never talk about relatives who were killed. It was just too painful. Or what happens sometimes is a child will die, and the parents may have other children, but it's so traumatic losing a child that sometimes they withdraw the love from the other children because they're so fearful of losing another child. And it's not really withdrawing the love, but not being able to express it with that deep fear. And if they can acknowledge that child that died, or maybe it was an abortion or a miscarriage, even those, there's so much emotion around it, and sometimes guilt, or excuse me, a parent blaming themselves for losing a child, even if there was nothing they could do. Um, and if they can recognize, okay, I have guilt, I have pain, these are part of where I am, and allow that to be, that can shift. And what we do in family constellations, we return it to the ancestors. And what I like to do is we give it back to those who came before, and then we burn it up in the sun.
Okay. I was about to ask, what do you do with that? You just
Yeah,
burn
yeah.
it.
I mean, we think that our ancestors have some healing, and if they're alive, you can notice
Hmm.
that they shift, even though they weren't present in the constellation, because the dynamic has changed.
Hmm.
Something changes for them, the communication, how they process things. But we like to then burn it up in the sun and
Hmm.
trust the
I would
sun.
imagine because you're doing the healing for them, not necessarily for the present you. You're doing it for them. You're just carrying that grief, that energy, I guess,
Well, you're doing it for the whole family system.
for the whole family system. Okay, all right.
Yeah, the goal is for everyone to be healed. Even, you know what, even the soldier who shot your ancestor, who knows what trauma they've gone through, and the some of it is no judgment.
Hmm.
This is what happened. You had an abortion, no judgment. In certain countries, there isn't birth control. And
Hmm.
so women have had multiple abortions.
Yeah.
It's the way it is. So just face it for where it is
Hmm.
and move on from there.
I would imagine that because I mean they have to take some drastic measures. That's why we all believe in proper professional uh, abortion or feminine care, abortion services here in this country because it's for the safety of the woman and
Yeah.
the child.
Yes.
Yeah, and the child, because I mean but I'm so sad that has become such a political thing. But for me, I had I've had the pain, deal with the pain of a miscarriage. I mean, I'm a man, but obviously, but I had seen miscarriages, and it's very painful, very traumatic. So my question is now, does that energy carry on to like say my son or my grandchildren?
It very well may.
They
Are
will,
you
man.
open to doing a little something in this moment?
Absolutely. Are you? I would love it.
Do you have, you said two miscarriages?
We've experienced a couple of miscarriages, yes.
So do you have a few objects near you?
By my earpods.
Okay, that's
And
one.
I got a remote control here.
Okay.
Hold on.
So,
I think
uh,
I fuzzied my background, so let me go ahead and unfuzzy my background there.
okay.
Yeah, I didn't know that I was doing that. Okay, there we go. So now you can see my remote.
Yeah.
Now you can see my iPad case.
Okay.
Oh, how
So,
exciting.
um, so the first miscarriage, would you have the remote represent, and so position how you feel, um, so is it far away? Is it close? Okay.
Right here.
And just notice how you feel.
Hmm.
And I can feel you have a lot of heart and there's some grief.
There's grief for sure. There's definitely grief and sorrow and woulda, coulda, shouldas, and I am so wish that I would have had a chance to meet this little guy or girl.
Would you say that directly to, so that's
Of
representing,
course, I wish you had made it. I think we would have had a wonderful, joyous life together, and maybe perhaps down the line we will meet again, and this time we'll both make it and have that joyous life.
and will you say to that child, I see you, I acknowledge you, and I I pray that you are doing well.
Well, I will say that I see you, I acknowledge you, I love you, even though you're not here. You are still a part of me, and I acknowledge where you are, and hopefully, some way you can keep in touch because I would love to hear from you. That's it. That was painful.
Yeah,
That was
yeah.
painful. That's traumatic. Yeah, that's hard.
Can you just stay present for a moment and breathe into it because things are shifting. I don't know if you can feel
Oh yeah.
there's isn't as much grief, though there's still some there.
Yeah, there is. Yeah. Actually, I feel joy. I sense joy that finally it's not like something that you forget, that I'm not forgetting it. Um, there, I feel that they may come to me in another form, not in a birth way, but in another kid who's already born. Maybe that. So I look forward to you. So whenever you're ready, you come to me. You come to me. Whenever you're ready, you just come right to me, and I will welcome you with open arms, and I'll treat you as if you were my own. That's what I would do.
Okay, I think we're going to leave it here. I think some things have resolved for you.
Ah, that was painful because brought back the grief that I experienced. And this was, oh my goodness, this was 14, 15 years ago.
Yeah. And you see how we hold on to emotions so long.
Yeah.
And if we can actually be present with the emotions and allow it to happen, and, and a lot of times it involves another person or a situation,
Mhm.
and just being present with that, a lot can shift.
Yeah, that was powerful. That was very powerful. But hopefully, like I said, now I'm kind of hoping I meet up with this kid somehow, some way. It might happen. I hope it does. But wherever that this kid is, I kind of sense it's a girl. And so wherever she is, I just want her to know that I look forward to the day when we finally get to meet because I mean I have one son and love him dearly. And he's a 13-year-old, so I love him, although it's kind of hard to like him.
Teenagers.
Yeah. And I've got hundreds. I've got over 120 of them. I'm a high school teacher. And so I mean I love them all, but there's some that are worse than others, but this whole idea of forgiveness because I would imagine with the way the world is right now. There's a lot of people hurting each other, especially what's happening over at the Middle East with Gaza and with Ukraine. And I mean, I would imagine that there's going to be a lot of energy that's going to have to be resolved
Yeah, yeah.
and
Uh,
everywhere.
the immigration in our country, so many people are traumatized by what's going on.
So, is there a way to stop all that pain or no? It's just human, it's just life.
Well, if there is, I don't know it, but you know, we do what we can do to
Mhm.
help one another, just like you're doing with your podcast. And I'm sure in high school, um, you're someone that they can talk to.
Right.
Uh, so,
And
th
how can someone get a hold of you? Okay, I know you have your SNR Bliss, and I guess you have your phone number on the website too, so they can get a hold of you. And I think this was a and you also have something else. It's called Satnam Rasyani? Rasan.
Rasayan,
Rasayan, sorry. It's yoga healing. Okay.
um,
What is that
it's more meditative. It's an energy level healing
about?
where um, by the practitioner emptying themselves, they relate to the person receiving the treatment, and there's a resonance which happens, recognizing your liver is at a very low frequency level, and I'll find that something in me is vibrating at that level. And we call that resistance. And when I'm empty, I allow the resistance. And because there's an emptiness, it doesn't hold on.
Uh,
And so it's a way of releasing pain, physical problems, spiritual, emotional. There's so many ways that we're out of balance.
mhm.
And in that way of treating, the person just lies down and there's no manipulation. It's more relating through a meditative state we call shunya. It means emptiness, or the Buddhists call it shunyata.
Hmm.
Uh, and in that emptiness, the connection is very deep. And so it's easy to recognize when someone has a pain in their shoulder or they have a fear. Um, you know, there's so many different ways. I helped a friend who was giving a workshop for pregnant couples
Hmm.
and um, had the men touch their wife's belly.
Hmm.
And some of them, it was almost like disconnected because they were so fearful of that. And so just by allowing them to breathe into that fear and opening the sacred healing space, they were more comfortable themselves and then were better able to relate to the baby. Um,
That's beautiful.
yeah,
That's beautiful.
there's so many ways that it can help.
That's fantastic. That is fantastic. Well, Argopal, I want to thank you. We've pretty much reached the 30-minute mark, but I am absolutely fascinated. And I have to thank you because that was a very powerful episode. Very, very powerful. And I needed that because I didn't realize I had to still come to terms with all that. So I'm glad that you did allow me to forget that pain and that there are ways of actually reconnecting with that. So. All right, everybody. So that is our session. This it will be available on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And we have, of course, Hargopal. The website is listed below, and as well as her phone number. So obviously, as you can see, with the short time that she helped me, the miracles that she can do for you. So, Ms. Hargopal, I want to thank you so much, and we will have this up shortly. Thank you, everybody.
And thank you.